You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with Dorothy Byrne, journalist and president of Murray Edwards College at Cambridge University, and Anna Soubry, barrister and former government minister. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, The Times says more than 1 million residents of Gaza City are attempting to flee south in a desperate attempt to escape the threat of an imminent Israeli invasion. The Guardian reports the US Secretary of State will return to Jerusalem for a second round of talks with Israel's Prime Minister to try to reduce the impact of an Israeli assault. The eye goes with the US and UK leading diplomatic efforts to try and prevent Israel's campaign in Gaza spreading. The US has warned Iran against escalating the war between Israel and Hamas into a broader conflict. That's according to the Financial Times. The Metro leads with Israel claiming it has killed Hamas chief Bilal al-Qadra, the man said to be behind the mass killings at 2 kibbutz. Fears of an all-out war, writes the Daily Mirror. The Daily Express goes with a warning from the Home Secretary, who reportedly said the police are coming for anyone glorifying terror on Britain's streets. And Suella Braverman's warning is also on the front of the Daily Mail. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by Dorothy Byrne and Anna Soubry. Welcome to you both. Obviously, one story over many of the papers, and we start with the Metro and their headline about the breaking news that we've had today, that Israel are claiming to have killed a Hamas chief, in fact, the chief who masterminded the attack just over a week ago.
Well, I feel that this is at a time when 1 million people are fleeing their homes and we're looking at a cataclysm in the Middle East. To me, this is an inappropriate front-page headline because it speaks to a narrative that there's a military solution here and that by killing current Hamas leaders and driving into Gaza in the way that is about to happen, there will be a long-term solution to this problem.
Anna, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with some of that, but my thing is this. What on earth is Israel meant to do? I mean, there's nothing new about Hamas, a terrorist organisation, on a daily basis launching rockets into Israel, because fundamentally Hamas, right at the heart of what it believes in killing every Jew and taking out the state of Israel. And so I have terrific sympathy for the situation that Israel finds itself in. It is entitled to defend itself. And taking out Hamas, I can understand why it would want to do that, because how long is it meant to put up with it? But equally, you can't deny, as you rightly say, there's 1 million real people, children, complete innocents, who are being told to get down to the bottom half, and what would look like an impending massacre on a scale of goodness knows what about to happen. And so you're not going to get a peace solution out of this, I agree with you, but what are we going to get out of it?
I think everybody would agree to Israel's right to defend itself, and that killing this person...
we don't know, do we?
Not a loss to the world.
No.
But
certainly.
I just think, for example, about 15 years ago, I commissioned a film about little boys in Gaza, and they were tiny little boys, absolutely traumatised by things that they had seen around them. And they were all talking about how much they hated Israelis and how much they wanted to kill them. And I now think, are some of those boys the boys who are now in Hamas? And now I look at these little children on the screen in Gaza and I think, where will they be in 15 years' time? So I know that people are not thinking at this moment about peace, but ultimately we know from looking at Northern Ireland that in the end the solution is not all-out war to a country being safe, it's finding peace.
And the answer to the question often posed about the use of war, it serves no purpose in the end, war, does it, really? And they're no winners, and they're just...
Except you're dealing with Hamas, and they don't want peace. They want to eliminate Israel. That's your big difficulty. But anyway.
Well, let's talk about all the other agents trying to, well, not necessarily secure peace at this stage, but prevent the conflict from spreading, and the eye looking at that and the role that the US and the UK are playing in that endeavour. Dorothy?
Well, I think the problem that the UK has got is that this morning in our papers, actually, we read that Rishi Sunak had issued unequivocal support for Israel and didn't mention in his statement anything about the Palestinians, unlike Biden and Blinken, actually, who did. And I think that there is
But he did
a balance
with
here.
Jordan's King Abdullah at Downing Street.
I think I would look at the statement that he made, and I think it's very important now that as a country we're balanced in our approach.
But I think actually what this story in the eye is getting to is that it's like what's happening behind the scenes. That's really, isn't it? Because Blinken and our Prime Minister, it would seem, it says, well, according to the eye, they're trying to prevent Israel's campaign in Gaza spreading, presumably because, obviously, of the intervention of Iraq and so on and so forth. But you just wonder whether or not, actually, they're also saying to Israel, if you embark upon the massacre, which seems to be the consequences of what you look like you're planning to, well, you are planning to do, then there will be consequences because we would not be able to tolerate that.
But the consequence they seem to be warning about is drawing in Hezbollah. This headline here is not saying that they are urging the Israelis not to invade
no, that is true.
Gaza with mass force. We do know that the Americans have said publicly to Israel, what matters now is how you do this. I haven't read at this moment, he may have said it, but I haven't read Rishi Sunak saying it's about how you do it. Keir Starmer has actually said how Israel does it is important.
It is.
It must obey the laws of international war, and it must make sure medicines and water get through.
And he's right.
Excuse me if I haven't yet heard it, but I haven't yet heard Sunak take that line that Starmer is taking and the Americans are taking.
Anna's point about what's going on behind the scenes, the FT speaks to that, with the US holding what they're describing as back-channel talks with Iran. And this is Jake Sullivan saying that they've communicated privately with Iran and have made their position extremely clear. Dorothy?
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean Anna.
No, sorry. I mean, yes, we all know that there's a certain amount of rhetoric which governments will engage in because it suits the audience at home. And you're right, Sunak's clearly done that. But it's what's going on behind the scenes. And that's what this story in the FT speaks to, is that obviously people are, I mean, as we all are, absolutely fearful, not just about if Israel, as it seems like it will, invade Gaza, and in my view, for understandable reasons. But it's then what then happens with Hezbollah in Lebanon, what Egypt's going to do. The whole thing could be absolutely catastrophic. And it's so sad, because some of us are old enough, you know, just like the whole of my life has seen this terrible conflict and never getting properly resolved. And it's been going on now for decades and decades. And now it just seems to be getting even worse.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, Dorothy Byrne and Anna Soubry. Let's take a look at the Times. This story on page 4 of the Times. The headline there: Yousaf's test for referendum backed by SNP. Referendum very much clearly back on the cards in terms of the SNP's agenda. Anna.
Well, I mean, I just think this is pretty bonkers of the SNP. But I don't want to, because as you can imagine, we've been having a chat and Dorothy's got a good line about the SNP. But I just think this is a terrible mistake. The SNP's got huge problems. I mean, they've just lost somebody to the Conservatives. Of course, they lost the recent by-election. And Labour's on the ascendancy, and they're going to talk about a referendum. And, I mean, it's not for me, perhaps, as an English resident to tell or talk about what's happening in Scotland with any authority, but it just strikes me that come a GE, the general election, the electorate is not going, in Scotland, is not want to be talking about a referendum. I just think a big mistake, but it shows you that they're desperate.
Well, Dorothy, the First Minister saying that he would end the Westminster roadblock.
Well, he can't. He says that he would demand the power to hold the referendum. Well, they demanded that before and they weren't given it. They haven't got it. That's it. But he is well advised to not talk about their record in power because it's really not very good at all. So my point was, if you've got one nice dress, wear that and just keep the rest of your wardrobe shut. And that's what he'd be best to do.
You see, the other thing is, he talks about the numbers. So he says if they won a majority of Scottish seats, it's obviously in the Times, he says at least 29. Well, of course, you'll remember that, yeah, the SNP absolutely have won almost all the seats in Westminster. And what have they achieved? Absolutely nothing. They were no nearer, not just to a referendum, but actually, I think, to persuading the Scottish people that it was in their best interests to be independent. So they just...
But I think
I wonder if the Scottish people have changed, though, in their
Yeah, I was
views.
going to say that a lot of people in Scotland just want the Tories out. So they will vote for the party that they think will get the Tories out, and that's Labour.
Yeah. Even
although they support independence, for them, the priorities have changed.
Yeah.
Well, the Scotland on Sunday survey has found that nearly half of Scots said support for independence should be at 60% before they even embark on a new referendum.
It's just, as I say, I think the SNP is a spent force, and I think the cause of independence, interestingly, as it has been debated and debated and debated, people have realised actually it's not in Scotland's interests to be independent. And as painful as it is for a lot of Scots to have the Westminster government that at the moment is a Conservative government, overall their interests remain in the Union. And it's a good example, actually, of how having a good, healthy debate about things is good.
Anna and Dorothy, thank you very much.